pressed it now. Okay. Yeah, I think we are live now. Amit, are you able to
Yeah,
hear
I
me?
think we are live. I can have it. I'm having it. Yes, I can have
We'll just wait for the other two to
it.
join
Yeah,
us.
I think we are live. I can have it. I'm having it.
Is your audio
There's
okay?
some disturbance. Yeah, there is some noise
Yeah.
which is coming.
I'm having a time lapse between what I'm saying and
Yeah. I'm also. I can also hear that. There is a lot of disturbance. And if you're waiting for other people to come, then you can just put it off now. Why is it going live then?
hmm.
I'm having a time lapse between what I'm saying and I'm also. There's a lot of time lapse. There's a lot of disturbance. And if you're waiting for other people to come, then you can just put it off now. Why is it going live?
But I'm just trying to figure out if we'll not have a problem while we're live.
There's a lot of time lapse. Can you hear that noise? And if you're waiting for other people to come, then you can just put it off now. Why is it going live?
Let me just relog in then.
I will also have to relog in. No?
Rakesh is also here. Deepika is also here. Okay. Is this better?
दीपिका के पीछे why is this lady standing like that?
That's my award,
Yeah,
Rakesh.
okay. We are live.
Nice.
Wow,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
You're gonna do this on a live? That's very bad.
Okay.
Is it possible for anybody to just quickly recheck that this is being streamed on YouTube? I just want to be sure that we are not the only four people discussing this.
We will have comments here. I think. Let me just
Okay.
see.
Because if I'm navigating to YouTube, there's a lot of audio and video disturbance. So I'll have to
Actually,
come out. Yeah, I think it's
let me
done.
just.
Because if
Yeah.
I'm
There was
navigating,
a
I
lot
think
of there was a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
There is
disturbance.
Okay.
I didn't know
I
it was
have the
less.
first comment. So I think people are able to see us. Nitish is saying, welcome everyone.
I
Okay, you
think there
all are
should be
visible and
number of
audible.
it. Usually shows the number of. It should be showing the number of people who are watching this to you, Arnaz.
I'm able to see comments, so people are able to see and hear us. So I guess we should be good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are good.
Okay. So welcome everybody, and let me welcome you all to Voice for Men India. Uh, Men's Day Out is passe now, and thanks to Deepika for pestering me for last 3 years to change this name. So anybody, if you're not happy with the change in name, please, you can hold Deepika accountable for this. And anyways, so let me introduce everybody. Let me start with Amit to my right. Amit has been recently in the news papers, actually, not in the news, because he's the intervener in the marital rape PIL at Delhi High Court. But besides that, Amit comes with a volume of work over the past decade in this particular segment. Next, I have with me Deepika Narayan Bhardwaj, who
Hi.
is a documentary filmmaker, but also besides the work she does, that she contributes, the work that she does towards men's rights, I think that is commendable. She's one of the very few who is on ground. I can vouch for it that she visits, so many cities which we sometimes I have not even heard of, and she really connects with people on ground, brings us stories from ground. And then, of course, we have Dr. Rakesh Kapoor. uh, I think he is one encyclopedia for child rights in India, especially when we speak about shared parenting or parental alienation. Dr. Rakesh Kapoor is at least my go-to person for any queries with regards to that. So welcome all of you, and we are doing this live for the first time. Somebody saying DNB needs no introduction. Yes, she doesn't, but I have to. I mean,
No, for
the
some
men
people.
might just feel left out. So, anyways, so why are we here today? We are here because yesterday midnight, and all of us were awake for very, very long. I think till 2, 3 in the morning.
I
Uh,
slept at 4.
finally, yeah. So
I was on
finally, we
Space
have
with
the
Greg Ellis
verdict.
till 4.
So finally, we have the verdict on Johnny Depp defamation case, which has come, and it has come in his favor largely. Let me start with you, Amit. What are your first thoughts on this?
Arnaz, all eyes were on this case for quite some time now, and I think this specific case has not just given voice to the male victims of domestic violence, but I think it has also given a larger message that once you are in a relationship, who's right and who's wrong comes secondary. But then you cannot just go on and on defaming a person, writing articles about that person when you are the perpetrator of the crime and he's the actual victim. You are portraying that he's the perpetrator, and in a way that it's actually jeopardized his entire life and liberty. His job, his self-esteem, his reputation in the society. So this is a very strong precedent that you cannot just go on and destroy somebody's life when you are the perpetrator and he's actually the victim. Uh, Coming to the the domestic violence, there is no safe space actually wherein people can really come out and share what they are facing in their relationship. We have our helpline wherein we get so many calls each day. Men are so uncomfortable because the society is not giving them that safe space where they can actually come and say whether that they have been victims of domestic violence, they have been physically or verbally or economically or sexually abused. So we have a society which actually mocks at men. We have a society which actually tells them that they are not, a man is not a man enough. He cannot handle his relationship or marriage, or a woman if he comes out and actually shares what he's going through. So with this case, it's a very strong message to the society also that we need to be a little more sympathetic when there are people around us who gather this courage and actually come out and share that they are men and they have been victimized, they have been a victim of domestic violence. So this is a very strong message for people at large to actually have a different perspective in life, to actually come off that stereotype that whenever there's a dispute between a man and a woman, man is always on the wrong side and it is the woman who's the victim.
Right. And Amit, as you rightly said, this whole case, and especially when public figures are involved, it becomes a conviction before actual conviction. So the media trials, the social media trials, the endless name calling that happens, that completely destroys and tarnishes the reputation of a man even before the court actually pronounces its verdict. So this whole case, just to share background with people who are watching, it was a very short-lived marriage. And in 2018, when Amber Heard, she went public with Washington Post interview, she made several allegations against Johnny Depp, and that was the whole defamation case, where Johnny Depp, actually stood up and he had filed a $50 million case against her. Now, again, as a counter, she, filed another case for $100 million. So when we say men should speak up, Deepika, I'll pose this question to you. When we say men should speak up, uh, they are, usually scared of the repercussions that they would have, if they even dare to speak up. And let's talk of country like India, because a lot of people are saying, why are we discussing about them? We know our laws are so biased towards women that men cannot really have the courage to speak up. So, how would men in India look at this case, and what should they do if they land up in a situation like this?
See, Arnaz, ideally, I was going through the comments also, and I think I somewhere agree with this comment which one person has made, that in India, uh, should we actually be talking about Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case, because the laws are so biased. Over there, a man could at least file a domestic violence case. Johnny Depp could have filed a domestic violence case. Amber Heard also could have done a lot of things, but then this became like a public outcry from Amber Heard's side. And Johnny Depp had been taking in it for so long, so he thought, okay, let's put this to rest because it's just non-stopping. It's just not stopping. But for me, I think if men are in this situation in India, and what they take away from this case is, I personally feel this whole idea of standing up for themselves, because what Johnny Depp essentially did here was, and in so many words, he has said in several statements of his, that this was not about winning or losing. This was not proving anybody wrong or right. He has admitted to the wrongs that he has done in his life. He has said categorically he's not a saint. But he said, I wanted to tell this world my side of story. I wanted to tell this world my truth. And I wanted to expose the lies that had been leveled against me. And it took a lot from him to be doing this. Feminists may think that it's a man's world and all of that jazz, which has been going on from the feminist side, because they are so outraged by this verdict. But he has lost so many opportunities in his career prior to this trial itself. He has lost his credibility. People had distanced themselves from him. He was basically reduced to a monster figure when he was not. So he stood up for himself, and I that personally see as the biggest takeaway for the men in India, especially that he is one now. I do not think that this will be taken as a case where a woman who was a victim was silenced by the abuser, but this case is in no mincing of words, a case where a victim actually spoke up against the abuser, because the abuser thought that this victim will never speak up. So I think, for me, the biggest takeaway is that people will uh, gather the courage to speak up, especially men who are victims of domestic abuse and false accusations
And
as well.
And yesterday there was this one tweet which everybody was posting globally, which said, "Go, Johnny, go, tell the world that you are a victim of domestic violence. Tell the world that you are a man and see if people believe you." Dr. Kapoor, when we talk about men speaking up and we urge men to speak up, do you think this is one of the biggest fears that again, as India is again perceived as a patriarchal society? So the minute if a man is going to speak up about the abuse that he's going within the four corners of his wall, how do you think would society react? And especially now when the entire trial was public and people could actually see both sides of the defense and the submissions, how would people really perceive domestic abuse for men?
Not true. Whereas I think, I was following a certain tweet itself, and I think there was that kind of just answers the question that you've said, which is, so it's coming from a woman who actually tweeted this out, that she was in a train watching two ladies discuss the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case. And one of the women just simply said, God, what a coward. And this is after this thing has come. He couldn't even take a few punches. What kind of a man is he if he couldn't even take a few punches, right? I mean, that was the reaction which was coming in from a few women who supposedly were obviously on the feminist side. But I think one of the things that good that has happened from here is that a lot of women I saw, and some of them genuinely who believed in females and women as being domestic violence victims, and the others and men being actually perpetrators, that they actually felt and they supported Johnny Depp throughout this thing. I think that was something that I felt as a very healthy trend, which is kind of emerged from this, right? So people are questioning the fact, believe all women, but is that something that we should actually move ahead with, or should we start questioning whatever? So I think that's some of the doors which have just got a little cracked and little open, but it needs a lot more of effort. And specifically in a country like India, what percentage of people in India actually even have heard the name Johnny Depp or Amber Heard, right? We are still talking about maybe the top 5, 7, 10% of India, while 90% don't even know this. So we need a Johnny Depp of India, right? We need somebody, and all of us understand whom we are talking about. Maybe that person, if he does end up becoming, fighting those cases, that's the possibility that we are possibly looking at. But otherwise, I still feel that even today, in spite of all of these cases, 1 month down the line, we'll all shut up. We'll all forget about Johnny Depp or such cases. It's about we keeping that little thing, that little spark which has come out, and making it into a fire. That's something which we need to do. And that we are actually, I'm sure, and we are happy to discuss that what are the steps forward that we can actually look forward and do. But that's part of the host, your questioning and how you want to take it forward.
You spoke about this whole campaign of believe all women, and already, yesterday we saw Amber Heard put out her statement immediately after the verdict, where she said she was sad, devastated, and she actually turned it around into injustice for women or setback to the whole Me Too campaign. Amit, would you like to tell us, when we talk about believe all women, and especially, while you have been dealing with this whole marital rape PIL, what exactly do we mean by believe all women when, we go to the court of law? If we say believe all women, what fair chance does a man stand to defend himself?
Arnaz, I would begin with the talking about the Constitution of India, because nobody is above the law, nobody is above the Constitution of India, and the Constitution of India in Article 14 talks about equality before law, equal protection by law to every person. So when the Constitution says that every person should be equally protected, whether it is a man, woman, any gender, whether the Constitution say that the law should actually not see what is the gender of the perpetrator and what the gender of the victim. We, while legislating the laws, have actually twisted the Constitution to suit our own narratives. And all these gender based laws, when they were made, they followed this narrative of believe all women. They followed this narrative that a woman can never lie. They followed this narrative that whatever the woman is saying is the gospel truth. And these laws were followed on the same principle, be it a domestic violence act, the rape laws, the spousal cruelty laws 498A, whatever the woman says, whatever the statement of the woman is, that is taken to be as the prima facie evidence to charge a man of that offense. And when you talk about marital rape law, the way they want it to be, the way they're proposing it, they want the same principle to follow in the marital rape law as well. If the wife says that my consent was not there, or my will on that certain date, which was 5 years back, 10 years back, 20 years back, my consent or my will was not there, or it was a vitiated consent, then the law will presume that the woman is always on she's always right, and whatever she's saying is the truth. So but I think what we see in practice is very, very different. We see that there's so many cases in the recent past where actually it has come to light that all these cases which are coming as Me Too cases, they're all smear campaigns. They are all campaigns to name and shame people. They are campaigns to satisfy their vengeance. They are campaigns to cash in from a failed relationship. So I think if you're talking about progressive laws, there should be protection to every victim, irrespective of the gender of the victim.
And if you see the Me Too movement, it was only active in 2018, just before the onset of your Lok Sabha elections, which are going to happen in 2019. After that, if you see, that handle has really not been active or, pursuing cases for genuine victims. At that time, it was only naming, shaming people which suited a certain section politically. And, that was about it. So if unlike us, if you're fighting for a cause, you do it on a regular basis. You can't just have a handle to tweet about a person if the agenda suits you, and be mum completely when a chief minister of a state actually questions if the rape had happened. So Deepika, of course,
And
better
let's
than me.
also acknowledge the fact that one of the crusaders raised crowdfund money of about. Now, I'm not here to demean anyone because I respect anybody who puts their life, and eventually activists do have to fund themselves. But uh, I think there was some 18 lakhs raised because this person said that she was unable to sustain herself, and there was 18 lakhs that was deposited for her through donations. And uh, pretty soon she was seen on a holiday abroad. So I personally feel she could have gone ahead for at least few years doing the same job and dealing with people and helping them out. But anyways, so what was your question, Arnaz?
No, so I'm saying this, this whole the backlash which came, that this verdict was against Me Too movement, or it would deter women or genuine victims from speaking up. But there is a big question mark on the Me Too movement itself. In fact, there was an article last year which actually spoke about the funding of the Me Too movement and how all the funds were like channelized, not towards the victims, but towards organizing seminars and other activities who were heading that particular campaign. So I think women, somewhere also need to rationalize and not fall for these social media hashtags and campaigns, which keep coming up periodically. But Deepika, I think you would be, somebody best to throw light upon this. That what does Me Too mean, in this whole. If you look at it legally, it has no standing, because today you can name and shame anybody, for that matter of fact. How many people have actually gone to court? It's very easy for you to get up and say, okay, I was abused by this person. But how many people have actually taken the fight to the court? So, and again,
Uh,
I'm putting a disclaimer. I'm not saying all women are like that. Definitely not. There will be very, very genuine victims also who are, going to speak up about the abuse. But of course, we are going to address the misuse that is taking place.
See, I was on a debate just before this, Arnaz, and there was a feminist who was trying to say that she doesn't understand why there are so many men who are celebrating this verdict. It looks so horrible, and it looks so damning that so many people are celebrating Johnny Depp, and it's so damaging to women. And she was making all of those points. But even while we discuss all of this, what I am actually uh, visualizing or analyzing is uh, h- taking away from how many people are actually following this from India. That's another thing which Dr. Kapoor said. But what I'm thinking is this whole idea that feminists are projecting that this is a bad day for women. This is a bad day for women to come forward and talk about it. I think they are doing first, and Amber Heard did an immense disservice to the genuine victims by lying and lying with a straight face. Second injustice that is now happening is by these feminist organizations by scaring women from coming out. Okay, so the only people who need to be afraid, when they actually go and claim that they have been abused, are people who lie about things that have not happened, which Amber Heard did. Anyone else, I mean, there are thousands and thousands of women who have been true, who have stuck to the truth, won their cases. There are so many men who are languishing in jails, have been convicted, are serving sentence. What these feminists say when they say things like these, it seems to project that there is just no justice for women, not just in US, anywhere across the world, which is so not true. The fact is that whenever a woman, especially in India at least, when she goes and makes a claim this serious of the kind of allegations of Amber Heard, Johnny Depp was still outside and he was still able to breathe and live. The first thing that happens in a country like India is that that man's liberty is snatched right away. He's put behind bars, whether that person is innocent or he is not innocent. So, first thing is, there is nothing in this verdict that's going to hurt genuine victims who come out with fair truth, uh, fairness, truth, and legitimate accusations because they're really seeking justice. And second thing, which I have been um sort of, I said it in the Mirror Now debate also, this was bound to happen someday, and it was just coming. And though it had many sort of points where it happened in the last few years, but this was sort of a complete, hammer. Me Too had gone berserk. Across the world, it had gone berserk. There are people who have committed suicide. There are families who have been damaged and destroyed permanently. I personally know there's so many women in the entertainment industry in India who have known women who have completely lied, taken crores and crores just to, accuse a man, or, first just make a livid allegation and then backtrack by taking money. So this absence of due process, which Me Too sort of propagated across the world, it had to see an end someday. And if there's someone who is seeing that, this is the end of Me Too, then let me tell to those people that, first of all, Me Too should not have been the way it was. And two, if it is an end, it better be an end to something that is absolute, has absolute no regard for the rule of law, that has absolutely no regard for a fairness, for fairness, for justice, and for giving everyone to put their side of the story, which is the bottom line of jurisprudence across the world. All of these points are well taken. There are women who have suffered, there are women who have gone through extreme form of harassment, there are women who have silently suffered. But letting go of due process is not the answer to that. And if you say that is an answer to that, then people will let go of due process for every crime. People will let go of due process for murders. People will let go of due process for thefts. People will let go of due process for attempt to rape, for anything. People will just let go of due process if all that you could do is file and, just accuse somebody of any crime or offense, and have that person's liberty and everything taken away, livelihood taken away, and punish him on the basis of social media accusations. That is that is just not how any movement can survive, and that's probably why we have seen what has happened to Me Too. So it's the
In fact, the
calling of the
Guardian
people
has.
who designed the movement like that, probably.
I don't know if you happen to see, the Guardian has actually put out an entire article, and the title says Johnny Depp trial was an orgy of misogyny. So I think all of you must have a read. And so, this is the kind of backlash which starts. Like any verdict which comes, which is fair, which has been given after looking at both sides of the argument, if it is not suiting the agenda of the women, if it is not pro women, it becomes sexist, it becomes misogynist. I think that is where the macro picture lies, and that is where people across the world should stand up and question these narratives which have been fed to us on a daily basis. Now let's come to the compensation part. Huge compensation to Johnny Depp, Rakesh, $15 million, for 10 towards the compensatory and 5 towards the punitive. And of course, Amber has also been awarded $2 million. Now, let's compare that to the scenario in India. And in fact, this morning I had a very identical comparison which I posted on Twitter. And this was a case again where, a husband in India was fighting for 6 years. And after 6 years, the court actually said that his wife had filed false dowry cases against him and his family. And he was awarded a very, very generous sum of rupees 500 for all the harassment and the mental torture
Wow.
that he faced for last 6 years.
Wow.
So I think people are right. They're saying, "Why are you talking about Johnny Depp?" I mean, look at India where we are, and I mean, it doesn't make sense at all discussing the laws from the West, because again, we will not ape the laws that don't suit us. We'll only ape the laws which will suit us and our narratives. So, what about the compensation? How do we look at it in India?
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm smiling, but there are two issues which I want to raise. Okay, and I think both are extremely serious from my perspective. So, the first one I'll raise, which is a direct response to your question, right? Which is that unfortunately, India as a society just does not understand emotional abuse. We are so used to the concept of just physical or sexual abuse, but we do not understand the concept. So I keep on repeating this in one of the articles that I'd written. I had even mentioned this. You know, uh, a rape, and this might sound very controversial, but try and understand it this way. A rape happens once for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, right? That is terrible. But just imagine an emotionally abused man who's been falsely accused gets raped every day. He's unable to sleep. That man who's been falsely accused of rape or any such false accusation is unable to sleep, is unable to, the person has nightmares. The person is unable to go out and face and meet his friends, or even show his face in the society. It is literally, I mean, I understand the comparison to some may seem very lopsided, but it isn't. I would suggest that all of us should go down and speak to people who've actually been falsely accused and ask them the price of emotional abuse. It's very fortunate that a country which has somewhat taken this progressive step, or the jury which has taken this progressive step, to actually award for emotional abuse that the person has gone through, which is Johnny Depp. We do not. I mean, all of you recognize me, and you were kind enough to introduce me as a child rights person. In parental alienation, both the child and the father, or the alienated parent, go through rape every day, every night, and we do not understand that how terrible it is. And that is something as a country which we must first things first recognize, that it is emotional abuse which is needs to be compensated for, right? It is not just physical abuse which we can see. It needs to be. So that's one area, and that's, unless that thing comes in, we will never be able to step into what I call as the next century or progression of growth. That's one. Second, I think what this, I would really ask each one of us to introspect on one very simple fact. And each one of us are guilty of it, including all the four of us sitting here, which is identity politics. Just the way we look at everything. Here we are looking at gender as an identity, that women are always victims and men as perpetuators. It's the same when we look at religion, caste. Each one of us are guilty of judging a person based on the identity. This itself is something that our judiciary does. We judge a person because of the gender, religion, caste. We do not look at the individual. Unless, and that is what I really hope, that this judgment, this can actually open the conversations of saying your identity, let's say, Deepika, or your identity is not just a woman. It's not just your religion that you say. It's not just the caste. You are an individual. And let's start looking at it just the way I say this: women and men are absolutely equal. They're equally capable of being nice, of being loving, and also of being evil and cruel. They're both equal. The day that kind of an understanding starts coming in within us is the only day we can really expect justice and compensation, as you spoke about, coming in. And there are multiple ways to compensate. I'm not sure if money is the only way to compensate. There are multiple other ways to compensate and punish, right? It's unfortunate that we have just stuck ourselves with that. We put blinders that this is the only way we can think. There are hundreds of other ways. Let's start exploring. Start having those conversations.
But Dr. Kapoor, you spoke about identity, and before I go to Amit, I will put this back to Deepika because you and I were discussing this a while ago. Johnny Depp being a public figure, the case has worked in favor as well as against him, because there's a section which says that because he is a public figure and he enjoys a huge fan base, somewhere there was a lot of emotional backing that he had from his fans. But there is another side to it as well, and I think you can elaborate on the laws that they have within the jurisdiction over there.
See, Arnas, something which has to be understood by people, because what happens is today a lot of people delve into a lot of issues without having a very thorough ground understanding of it. So Johnny Depp may be a very big star. Amber Heard is no lesser a big star. Johnny Depp may have millions in his pockets. Amber is no pauper. So maybe there could be a difference in their stardom or things like that, but we are not looking at an underprivileged person comparison here.
We're
First,
looking at equals, basically.
we are looking at equals, as much as equals where the woman says, I did not uh, punch you, I hit you, and and things like that. Second thing which we have to understand is, this case had too much depth into it. uh, Anybody who is interested can of course go and study the case, but the trial was on for the world to see. There are witnesses from Amber Heard's side whose testimonies completely contradicted from what Heard claimed. There were police officers who have testified who said that on a particular incident, while she said that she was, assaulted so bad, they did not see any injury on her. And on the next day, when she lands up in the court, she has a bruise on her face. How does that happen, right? Uh, there are claims that she made of violent abuse, and testimonies were, or witnesses were called on from those hotels, or from the penthouse of Johnny Depp, or from the locations that they were in. One was from Australia, and uh, there were multiple incidents that were actually considered during the trial. So what I'm trying to say is, the burden of proof, or the burden of proving this case against Amber Heard for Johnny Depp, was an extremely uphill task. There were so many evidences that were presented to actually prove that what Amber Heard said was said with an intent of malice. There was an actual malice in her allegations. They were not just false, but she actually intended to ruin Johnny Depp, and that's why the jury unanimously declared a verdict in his favor. We have seen a lot of times the juries are divided. Somebody has a certain point of view, somebody has another point of view, and it's very difficult for jury also to come give an absolute decision. But here, that it was unanimous. So the law in which Amber Heard was sued was not very easy. Second, there were so many witnesses and so many testimonies and so many evidences that were considered by the court of law. Third, Johnny Depp had so many evidences to prove that this was an actual case of not just false allegations, but allegations with an absolute malice. So, anybody who says that, because he's a powerful man, he has been able to, get away, or things like that, I think they really need to reflect and think as a human being first. No one is mad enough leave about a man like Johnny Depp, who would have one of the best advisors in the world to his disposal if he could, engage with the help of money, to take it upon himself to prove his innocence when the battle was such an uphill battle against him for the last 6 years. He did this only because the truth was on his side and he had to eventually tell the truth to the world, right? So, people who are just pontificating on it on a surface, especially the women's right activists and the feminists, they really should understand what went into this case, the extent and the depth to which it went, after which a verdict was reached.
I think Rakesh
Arnaz,
wants to
Arnaz, yeah.
interject.
Arnaz, may I just reverse the role and ask you a question? Yeah. So let me be honest and ask you this.
Rakesh
Do
will
you think,
always do this. Whenever I call him in one part of the segment, he will do this role reversal on us. So, anyways, go ahead.
no, but seriously, do you really think in this case, we are all celebrating the fact of the verdict that's coming, the Johnny Depp verdict that's coming. And I'm obviously leaving this question for discussion for all four of us to discuss, which is to say, do you really think justice has actually been done just because $10.35 million have been awarded to Amber Heard, right? Do you really think justice has been done? If I were to reverse the genders, right? And it was Johnny Depp versus. Do you really think the feminists would have come out and actually said celebrated a verdict like this, just the way we are in some ways celebrating it? I hope you understand the question I've put in. Do you really
I
think
think what
justice has
happens
been delivered?
what happens is, Rakesh, our expectations when it comes to justice for men are so low or even below low that only getting a verdict in one's favor is a victory in itself. So that is where men are right now. I mean, again, I'm not talking of India at all, because India is a very, very different segment if we look at the laws and the way the courts function. But to answer what you said is that today men do not have hopes of really proving themselves or coming clean against the allegations which are leveled against them. And but the allegations could be as malicious as rape charges, or like Amit would tell us that section 377 is used so frequently nowadays. So at the end of this whole thing, if a man is getting acquitted, I think he's more than happy. He doesn't care about the compensation, because his entire the number of years that he spent at court just to be acquitted is a big, big relief for him. But that is where we are, whether we like it or we don't like it. And as you rightly said, if the
Anas,
genders were reversed,
yeah.
the feminists would have definitely not accepted just a mere compensation if the verdict
No,
was
no, no. Sorry. Let me just
In
add to
fact,
that before
Anas,
Amit comes in.
I would just, I would
Go
just
ahead.
say on what Dr. Kapoor said, that Johnny Depp's own contention was never to get some kind of compensation or some kind of money. His thing was that he should be heard. His thing was that he has been demonized in a way that the whole world is seeing him as a demon, as a person who was a wife beater, as a person who was a perpetrator of crime, and his side, the people, the world did not know. So today, this was not a trial of a domestic violence case. Actually, this was a trial of a defamation case. But throughout this whole trial, it came out that Johnny Depp, who people were seeing as a perpetrator of the crime, was actually himself the victim of the crime. So the people who are celebrating the fact that the truth has come out, that the truth which was under the wraps, that the fact that Johnny Depp himself is the victim. His in contention that people should know his side has actually been met, and that's the thing that people are celebrating. And on the other side, feminists, I was also in a discussion just before this, and some feminists were saying that the man has gotten away. So even in India, when it happens that there is a media trial, because we've seen a number of media trials even in India, and when it comes out that the man was not on the wrong side, it was a false case. People always say that he was a rich and a famous and a person with means and resources, and he's just gotten away. So this is a deep rooted hate for men. It's a misandry that is prevalent in the society, that actually makes people blind, and always make them believe that man is always on the wrong side, and woman is always the victim when it comes to any dispute between a man and a woman. That's what
No,
happens
When
sorry.
even in
you
India.
say, Amit,
Sorry, let
when
me
you
just
speak
add to
about
that,
rich
Arnaz.
and
Arnaz,
poor,
sorry, let me just add to that with just, so let me just clarify my question is saying, do you really think justice has been delivered? Especially, let me add to that by saying, imagine if it had come out in any court of law that the woman's finger was cut, the man went and actually shat on the woman's bed, the man was hit by the bathroom door and things like that. Don't you think, at least in Indian courts, there would have been such an outcry that suo moto cognizance would have been taken and the man would have been arrested and put behind bars on day one?
No,
In
Dr.
Why?
fact,
Kapoor,
if the
I
man would
think,
have
Dr.
lied,
Kapoor,
even
Doctor,
if the man would have lied in the court, there would have been perjury cases against him. And you're right, a suo moto cognizance would have been taken in the relevant sections, and a law would have taken would have prevailed. Actually, he would have been behind bars.
but let me say this, Dr. Kapoor, because there have been instances, there have been messages that Johnny Depp sent to his friends on how what he wants to do to Amber Heard, right? There have been instances where he himself admitted, or he's also heard on the audio, just like Amber Heard is, captured on the audio, where he is saying that on that particular occasion there was a physical thing, and he did this or she did that, and all of that. So I don't think we can paint this whole case as a case of violence of abuse entirely from one side. There, I think this whole relationship was extremely toxic, and to my mind, from whatever I have observed, there was physical abuse from both the sides. So
I would
it's not
challenge
a
you on that, Deepika. I'm not sure if I've heard any. You may be right, but I'm saying I'm not heard where Johnny Depp has actually been proven to physically abuse Amber Heard at any point of time. Not that I'm aware of.
Johnny Depp has
Is
said
there
that I
Dr.
am
any?
Kapoor,
no
he
saint.
No,
Johnny
Dr.
Depp has
Kapoor,
said that I am
Johnny
no
Depp
saint,
actually
and
lost the suit in UK. He was proven guilty on 12 counts of domestic violence in the court of UK. Amber Heard had won the case over there. More than that, Johnny Depp, again, just like Amber Heard was caught on the camera saying all of this, there are audios that have come out where Johnny Depp is also saying that I'm so sorry, I did that, I regret having done this to you, and all of that. So there is.
Of
There
hitting
but
is.
Amber Heard?
if you just
Yes.
compare it with the Indian context, Deepika, there at least both of them had the liberty to go and file a domestic violence case. The law actually give liberty to both of them, irrespective of their genders, to go and actually, charge the other person of whatever crime they've perpetrated on you. If we come to the Indian context, here, if a man is actually being perpetrated, being wrong, the law does not recognize it. The law, we have actually genderized pain. The pain of a man, there is no law. A crime by a woman, you will not accept it. So we have actually genderized everything, wherein if a man goes through a pain, the laws are not there to protect him.
True.
and then there is
Absolutely.
this one question which is popping up by a lot of people, and I don't know, maybe Amit would want to take that. They're saying defamation laws in India, hardly exist. So, what are we
In
talking
fact,
about?
in fact, I wanted to cover
There's
that
something
also.
that
Yeah.
we should have actually. There's a case that we should actually kind of. We definitely talk about problems, but I think we should also look at solutions in whatever form we could get. I think we should really rally behind this case, and I'm trying to do that. Probably I'll have some breakthrough. Uh, there's this woman who has won a case of uh, a compensation of a lakh against her. You have reported it, of course, Arnaz. She won 1 lakh in damages because she was falsely accused of physical abuse by her sister-in-law in a false 498A case. So she did not move under defamation laws. She moved under the law of torts. So कहने को है वो काम करता है ये
But
एक्चुअली
Deepika,
मुझे
don't
बहुत
forget, it was a woman versus woman. So don't forget that. That is also
well,
very
we have
crucial.
to try. Well, we have to try, Arnaz.
No,
I
but
think
it's a
we should
fact.
pass
It's a
on these
fact, Deepika.
solutions
It's a
to
fact.
people.
It's a fact that Indian laws that govern defamation, they are very very weak, and
Of course.
especially when it comes to a man being defamed or a man losing his job because of being defamed or being charged of false cases. The laws are extremely, they're laughable actually. We've not seen cases, and we see every day that men go through false cases which are followed by defamation. Letters are sent or emails are sent to their employers, and they are defamed in the society at large, in the social media, and they lose everything that they have. They lose their money, they lose their job, they lose their reputation. And how many cases have we seen, Arnaz, where actually the person who's defamed have been uh, guilty of the crime, and that person has compensated anywhere in the court? We've not
No,
seen
I think the
such
max
cases.
that a court would do is it would just restrict the parties from speaking further in media. But there is really no repercussion that happens, or
No, the
maybe
cases
just a
will
mere
the cases would go on for years together, and at the end of it, they would pressurize the man to somehow go for an out of court settlement, because there are so many other counter cases which the woman would go and file against the man. If the man dares to actually go out and file a defamation case, there would be a series of other criminal charges that the man will face, and ultimately what happens, you also know, is that out of court settlements, and people, men are pressurized to pay up the other side and settle their cases.
I don't know if you guys read this. Just yesterday, we put out this article from Karnataka High Court, the order which has come. The judge has actually quashed a rape charge after the parties went and they filed an application saying they've settled the matter. And this was a case where a woman had filed rape charge against four persons of the same family. Both of them were married, the woman and the man against whom she had filed the charge. Both of them were married and they were, having an affair. After which she had gone ahead and filed this rape charge. Now, the matter would have been settled, and all the parties they went to court saying now you can quash it, and this is our settlement application. So, what is the message that the court is giving? That are we encouraging some kind of legal extortion, or kind of giving rape laws as a tool to women to ensure that the men fall in line as per their demands? So, what is the messaging really that goes out?
Rape industry is what they are
I think
Say
this is
trying.
376 is going the 498 way. There will be a lot of compromises. There are a lot of compromises which are already happening, which we are absolutely unaware of. There are a lot of men who are pressurized to get married to the woman right there at the police stations. There is no data, there is no statistics of that. So, कुछ नहीं आगे आराम से compromise होंगे cases.
Anas,
बंदा
yeah,
शादी कर ले तो
this is
शादी कर
also
ले.
this is also a curtain raiser for the uh, uh, marital rape law, which is being discussed. If that comes to a picture the way they want it to be, then this is what is going to happen. Actually, the
The
marriage is not working
allegation
out.
I was
Amit,
talking to, I was
File
on
a
Amit,
a
case
stage
against the
last
entire family.
evening.
You file a
Yeah.
case
Amit,
against the entire family, and then you ask for sky, and
Amit,
and
I
the
don't
court
know
will
if you're
oblige. The court
aware,
will oblige and quash the cases later.
but
A lot of
ironically, this
allegations
is
of
the same judge. Ironically, this is the same
Same
judge
judge that
who,
allowed
few days
375
ago,
against the husband.
he has convicted a husband on charges of marital rape without a law. This is the same judge,
No,
not
he's,
and
he's
now
convicted,
allowed the charge
has
frame.
sent for
He's
trial,
allowed the
has
charge
sent,
frame.
he
He's
is
allowed
allowed
the charge
a
frame.
trial
he's
of the
upheld,
husband.
Yeah,
yes.
which
No,
So
is
what
this
I
is
was
the
extremely
saying,
same
wrong.
judge.
what I was saying yesterday in Greg Ellis's space was this, that, all of this domestic violence and physical assault and all of those allegations back and forth that went between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are one thing. But she actually had allegations where he says that he did a cavity check in her ass. uh, he shoved a bottle inside her, right? These are very very gruesome allegations, and then the moment when she says something like that happened, on the next day she was walking or walking in high heels, or or was an absolutely okay person. So I asked Greg that defamation, allegations of domestic abuse and all of that is fine, but this is very very serious. This is brutal sexual assault allegations that she leveled against Johnny Depp. And interestingly, all of these allegations, a lot of these allegations came only now during the trial. Also, interestingly, Amber Heard thought of, suing Johnny Depp only after he sued her. You know, so I was asking this exactly to Greg, that what is the repercussion of this, because this cannot just pass through. This cannot be treated in passing. These were very very serious allegations, and if these are blatantly false, then she has committed perjury of a very, very high order, for which I think the laws in the US have jail term or something like that. So मैरिटल रेप में भी आ गया तो फिर बस वही है कि 3 साल से 4 साल से कोई और allegations चल रही हैं, and suddenly you will bring in the allegations of marital rape. This is an allegation of marital rape only, which Amber Heard suddenly brought out of the blue. So probably heading there
It
in
should be
India as well.
all divorce cases will have the allegation of marital rape, right? Because I think you had only tweeted this, that if this law passes, nobody will be harassed for dowry anymore. Everybody would be,
Yeah, why would
filing
somebody file a
divorce.
DV case or a 498A
Yeah.
case? The trial will go for years and they will have to wait. In fact, I have come to know that there are some lawyers group, not all of them, but I mean, I'm not generalizing everybody. There are some groups who started working on the templates of marital rape, complaints already. So, women are being said that why don't you wait for some more time and you can directly file a marital rape case? Why you're filing a 498A case? So, the way 498A has become a mockery, when it comes to filing false cases, the next would be marital rape law.
I feel very
No, in
bad
the
actually
same
with all
vein,
of
I
this
would
that is
say,
happening. I feel very bad, yeah. I remember I had gone for shooting of no, I think it was Martyrs of Marriage. I was in this women's police station in Gurgaon only. And I think I had written about it also, because it was very, I tried to help her also. There was this woman who uh, actually was, victim of domestic abuse. She was carrying a very, very small baby, बहुत toddler था, 3-4 महीने का होगा शायद. And she was all in sweat, and she was very very poor woman. She was just sitting over there and crying. And I asked her कि क्या हुआ दीदी, आप क्यों रो रहे हो? We had just gone there to shoot the women's police station and all of that. And she said कि मैडम मुझे यहाँ पर आते हुए 1 महीना कुछ हो गया है. I don't remember the exact versions of what she said, but मोटा मोटा मुझे याद है. She was so distraught, and she said, ये मेरी औरतें, ये जो women police station वाले हैं मैम, मेरी बात नहीं सुनते हैं, और मैं इतने दिनों से यहाँ पर आ रही हूँ, मैं कंप्लेंट लिखने की कोशिश कर रही हूँ. मुझे उसको जेल में नहीं डालना है, लेकिन बस उसको ये बोल दें कि वो मुझे मारे पीटे नहीं. और ये लोग मेरे लिए वो भी करने के लिए रेडी नहीं है, मेरे को डांट मार के भगा के भेज देते हैं. सो देन आई फिगर्ड आउट कि हाँ भैया, आप वुमेन कमीशन में चले जाओ. उसको कमीशन का नंबर दिया, थोड़ा बहुत उसको फॉलो अप भी, उस केस को फॉलो अप करने की कोशिश की. बट आई ऑनेस्टली फील वेरी बैड कि ये जो पूरा अब्यूज ऑफ लॉ, मिसयूज ऑफ लॉ, और ये सारा का, और या फिर एक्चुअल यूज ऑफ लॉ, या फिर या फेमिनिस्ट वर्सेस हमारी जो वो एक सिचुएशन है. In amidst all of this, there are a lot of women who actually do not have any voice also. उनको तो कोई सुन ही नहीं रहा है. When in fact I wanted to share this in the beginning. There's Dr. Ritu Saraswat. She's a sociologist who's based in Rajasthan. She's traveling to very remote villages, and she's doing a study on what the rural women want in the wake of bringing this law on marital rape. And she captured some videos and she sent it to me as well. I don't think any of the feminists arguing in the Delhi High Court, or who would now argue in the Supreme Court, has ever gone ahead and asked these women if they actually want a law like that, or what do they actually want. So this is very. I
Amit,
feel sad. I feel bad.
Amit, there's a question for you from Miss Arunima De, and she's saying, I have a question. Are 100% domestic violence cases false? Because men's rights activists, perhaps they want to assume that every case that is filed is false. So, Amit, do you want to just clarify that point?
No, see, my point here, Arnaz, would be that whether the case is right or it is a false case, it is for the courts to decide. People, when they come to us and give their side of the story, we actually do not judge at all whether they're on the right side or they have perpetrated a crime. It is for the courts to actually decide. But the point here is that the principle of natural justice, that a person is innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt, that should prevail. A person on a mere charges of domestic violence should not be deprived of his life and liberty, his job, his self-respect. So every so I've been saying this, whether the victim is a man or a woman, should get similar support, similar laws, similar redressal. Whether the person is on the right side, that the court would decide. And like Deepika said, there have been so many convictions. So every case has its own merits and demerits. We are not saying that every case is a right case, or we are not here to judge the case. All that we are saying is that every person should be protected equally by law, and the principle of natural justice, that a person is innocent until he's proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt, should prevail.
I just want to add to this to Arunima. Arunima, no one as much of very genuine and hardworking activists I know who are working on the men's issues. Uh, I haven't seen that there is anyone who has said 100% of the domestic violence cases are false. There are a lot of domestic violence cases which are absolutely false. But I am yet to come across somebody who would say 100% of domestic violence cases are false or there's no domestic violence against women in India, because that is just not the truth. What I wish to add, Arunima, to your question is, and an answer to that is, and I have no qualms in saying this, just like there are a lot of women who claim to be feminists and women's right activists who have gone ahead and said, kill all men are trash, that men have absolutely no need in the society, they should all just go away and things like that. Just like there are some people who take it to the extremes on that side, there probably would be people who could take it on the extremes on this side as well. And let's understand that a lot of people do this out of extreme frustration and anger. But I'm sure none of these people are making any headway in bringing justice, fairness, or a, a balance in gender justice, if I may say, anywhere. So um, I don't think that is a truth. There's no one who is saying that is the truth here. But one thing that I could definitely tell you, Arunima, is please go and check it for yourself. And anyone who is listening to this debate or discussion, while you would still have a lot of people who are convicted for 10 years, 15 years, who commit crimes against women, please go and see how many women have actually been punished for ruining lives of men because of false accusations. Per- Particularly 498A, which has been going on for now, what we are in 2022, almost we would have the 40th anniversary of 498A next year in 2023. Uh, Please go and search the internet for name of one woman who filed a false 498A and had to serve a jail term or had to suffer anything at all. Just one, I'm saying just one in 40 years. I haven't been able to find one. If you're able to find, please let me know. So that's where a lot of anger and frustration comes from. Uh, Justice has to be gender agnostic, and that's what a lot of men's right activists are asking for. There's no one who's saying here that women should not get justice or women are not victims of abuse. They are, but there are also a lot of men who are uh, invisible victims of domestic abuse or false accusations in India, which are not heard at all.
And lastly, let's do a comparison between, how the judiciary was bold enough to give this kind of verdict in Johnny Depp's case. Now, if you compare that to the judiciary in India, and you also look at the kind of media bullying that is happening against the judiciary, Dr. Kapoor, would you like to take that question? Because we have seen in several cases, if there is any judgment, any comment by a judge, which is perceived to be anti-women and not in favor of her, there is a lot of media bullying that happens against that judge. And in one of the cases, we've also seen that the judge was not confirmed by the Supreme Court Collegium. Do you think in India we would ever see a Johnny Depp kind of verdict, which is, kind of blatantly going to call out the woman?
Not true. Let's put it this way: the judges at the end of the day, or the judiciary, comes out of the society that we live in, right? They do not come from a place beyond where we are living in. It's just a question of the kind of work that you're doing, Arnaz, which is why I am so particularly fond of what the two of you and all of us are doing. Is it's about bringing out those stories and changing the perspective. See, at the end of the day, I speak very recently. I've been speaking to hundreds of judges recently on a lot of these matters on a one-on-one private conversations. And I can tell you one of the things. So, like what Amit said, I spoke to about 7 family court judges in, I won't tell you the city because that's not important, right? And I asked them about, do you think marital rape law should be coming into India, right? And each one of them, not, and there were women judges and men judges all there, right? Not one of them supported marital law to marital rape to be passed as a law. Each one of them completely agreed with the fact that it it will just not just ruin marriages, it will just force us to do things which we know on the face of it is wrong, right? But the problem that's coming about is that their hands are tied by. I'll give you an example. So this was one of the articles which I was reading, where the man was given a divorce for saying, "Oh, the woman has committed complete cruelty against you. It is terrible the way she's treated you." Okay, now go ahead and pay this guy whatever 1 crore, or pay this woman one
One and a
crore
half
for it.
crore. 1.5 crore.
One.
And Dr. Kapoor, that divorce came through after 17 years. So let us
Oh,
not forget the timelines as well.
oh, so they did it about 3 years earlier than I expected them to, but that's besides the point. Okay, but having said that, I'm just saying, it's about the cruelty factor. I mean, the Supreme Court judges, because that's what they say when I speak to them, that they are bound by what the Supreme Court, because their judgments are going to be challenged, and a lot of them are finally going to reach Supreme Court. And if those judgments get overturned, our appraisal systems and things like that get obviously impacted and things like that. So that's where the problem comes in, which is to say that these people who are sitting at the top are absolutely coming from a generation which is not what India is anymore. One of the truths about India is that what takes various other countries, a century to change, India does that in 10 years. India is very quick to actually adopting a lot of things. I'll give you an example from my this thing, right? So one of the surveys that we did was how many fathers are attending PTMs, right? Now, within a period of just 18 years, is what we calculated, that number went up by 4 times. There were only about 12 to 30, 12 to 14% of fathers who were attending PTMs, and now it's gone to above 50%, and in less than 18 years, right? So that kind of a shift is something that our judiciary just does not, at the top, is unable to appreciate, because I mean, I'm sorry for using, they are sitting on their ivory towers chambers without understanding how India has changed, right? Now,
I
that's
think
the reason.
is the classic example, because as Deepika said, this was brought in 1983, almost 40 years ago, when India was, having joint family system, where, the joint family didn't only mean the husband and his parents, but it also meant his brothers, their wives, their children. But today, is it the same India are we looking at? Yet the law still, remains to be the same. That even if the sister-in-law has not even lived in the household for one single day, she and her husband are also implicated on those criminal charges. So, this is what you're exactly saying. India has moved ahead in the last 40 years, but the law remains where it is.
Absolutely. No, another
And that
thing
too,
which
these are not Indian Penal Code. I mean, this is not 1860 IPC. This is the amended IPC. So if they brought an amendment then, they could as well bring an amendment again into the law, because it did not really work the way that they wanted it to work.
No, but
Yeah,
amendment
unless
will
when
not help actually. Where I'm coming from is saying the POXO Act has specific provision. The section 21, 22, and 23 of the POXO Act has specific provisions for punishing a false accuser, right? I haven't come across a single case, and there it's almost mandatory for them to do so without, and because they don't appreciate. I haven't come across a single case where false POXO accusers have been actually jailed as per the law, right? Now, that's where the problem is, not just making the laws. The issue is about
Implemented.
implementing and executing those laws by the judiciary, which I don't know. I've discussed this, but I'll let Amit continue this. I can obviously talk on about this. Yes, Amit, please.
No, Anas, when you're talking about the judiciary taking a stand, I'll just bring your attention to what happened in the marital rape verdict as well, very recently here, where one of the judges took a stand where he was convinced completely that it will be unconstitutional to remove the exception, and he had a very, very valid reasoning, behind it. And you must have seen the kind of campaign which went, after the judgment. Uh, on this specific judge, who, who was, kind of labeled as, anti-justice, anti, misogynist, and anti-woman, and all of that. And also in the past, we've seen that whenever there is a judgment which talks about, man suffering, or which talks about laws being gender neutral, there's a very, very planned campaign, which we see, and when we saw that Rajesh Sharma judgment, wherein the Supreme Court had actually formed family welfare committees before going in for a FIR under 498A. You must have seen how these women's rights activists, they just went berserk, uh, imagining that the men would not be directly arrested now, and their families would have that breather of going to a family welfare committee. They went to the courts, and then it was those family welfare committees were actually abolished. So what I'm trying to say is that, if they actually say that it is about justice, if they actually say that it is about, women getting justice or equality, then they should not have a problem with laws being gender neutral. They should. I mean, people who have been saying today that this particular verdict in the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case is actually a setback for the women's rights. I believe that they are somewhere confirming that for them, it is, feminism is about woman always winning, even if she's on the wrong side of the law.
In fact, in 2012, UPA too also wanted to make rape laws gender neutral. But once again, they also face, backlash from the women's rights activists, and again, it was put in the bin. So, I mean, irrespective of whichever government is in
The
power
ordinance
today,
which came was gender neutral actually. The ordinance which came after the 2013 amendments, that was there for about a month, it was a gender neutral rape law ordinance. And these women's rights activists who talk about equality, they only came very strongly saying that men are going to abuse this law if it becomes gender neutral, and that was their reason for not having a gender neutral law. And today they say that abuse of law is not a ground enough to not have a law. So
So
you see
whenever
the
we
bigger
demand
picture.
a law in favor of men, equal laws, they will question how many men suffer, what are the numbers, what are the statistics. And even if it is one-off case which happens on the other side, overnight they want to change the laws and bring in new amendments. So that is how selective outrage is. And unfortunately, the common people don't understand
Now,
what
don't
Interestingly,
even get
Arnaz,
into the numbers
interestingly,
game,
all of
Arnaz.
these people who outraged so much during a case like Aisha, or during a case like what's her name from Kerala, um Westma or something like that. I'm forgetting the name.
Miss Ramu or something like
Yeah,
that. The one that the order which just came 2 days back.
both of the husbands have been convicted. 1 year of trial, flat, just 1 year of trial, sent to 10 years of rigorous imprisonment. But none of them will speak about that. None of
In fact,
them have
I
spoken
will
about it.
I will share this one case, and I remember this very well. There was a man who committed suicide in Gujarat. I think it was 2019 or 2020. He left a suicide note against his mother-in-law, alleging that she was constantly harassing him for alimony and filing false cases. He left. He died with a suicide note. Now imagine what the lawyer from the other side did. He went to the High Court and he said demand of alimony is a legal right. You cannot look at it as a harassment, or you cannot, commit suicide because somebody is demanding alimony. So when this is
This is
how the laws are. So
uh,
when people question us that why are we so do we say that women don't suffer? No, women suffer, but then women do get justice also if they suffer. And
uh,
if you look at
I Martyrs of Marriage has a case. I will soon do this, at least in the form of a Twitter thread, if not anything else. And you could do a story also, Arnaz. I'll share the judgment with you. There's a case of a young man from Bangalore. I was traveling to Hyderabad to shoot a case where, while I was in the train, this man committed suicide. And I got to
Manoj.
know about this case, Manoj Kumar. And he left with wearing a t-shirt, I guess, which had written "Sorry, son," and then he left a suicide note also. His wife, exactly on that night, suicide mostly 306 is about an immediate trigger for a person to actually, push the person to commit suicide. And in this case, I was so hopeful that the woman actually will be convicted because. Uh, this man had filed for divorce. He was staying in a PG. He had already separated. He was just trying to live his life peacefully. And when he filed for divorce and the woman actually got the divorce summons, she went outside his house, created extreme ruckus, and then broke a lot of things in his house, and tried to assault his mother and said she will see everyone. And the entire neighborhood saw, and there were a lot of people when we had when I was there shooting this, a lot of people had protested to get justice for Manoj Kumar. And I thought actually in this case the woman would be convicted because there wasn't an immediate thing. So this ruckus she did that night itself, Manoj hanged himself. And she was trying to book all of them in 498A. All of the evidences were there. This happened in 2014, or probably 2013, I guess 2013 or 14 की बात है. 2021 में verdict आती है. 6 years, 7 years. The judge says that the brothers of Manoj, who are saying that their brother was being harassed and tortured by their wife, did not live with the couple. So, how would they know that she was harassing him? I am so shocked. I am just so shocked at this verdict. I spoke to his family when I went to Bangalore for India's Sun screening, and I really wanted to go and meet them as well. But I could not, and I did not, because I asked them if they want to appeal. And then they said we do not have any energies left. We thought we would get justice, but we haven't got justice. The judgment is so ridiculous. I really wish it could be appealed, but then if the family would not appeal, then what could I do? But I'll bring the judgment out, I'll bring the case out so that people understand how many men are actually getting justice in India,
in fact,
even
And
when they commit
imagine here,
this
the gender role reversal that Dr. Kapoor just suggested some time back. If you just reverse the gender here, and if the wife would have actually had committed suicide, not just the husband, his entire family would have been till now at least behind bars.
Absolutely, absolutely.
There was
She's
this
the
recent
person.
case in Delhi, right? The air hostess case, I think, couple of years ago, and she had committed suicide, and her husband was immediately picked up. Uh, I don't remember her name, but it was
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah,
Delhi.
yeah.
She was
Yes, yes, yes,
this.
yes.
So, I mean, there is this, I mean, absolute, what do I say, a bias, because the minute a woman dies, or even recent cases where, a lot of women died in Kolkata, and the first, the suspicion goes on to the live-in partner or to the boyfriend, whom she was dating. But here you have men who are leaving suicide notes, suicide videos. Despite that, the women are going scot-free.
अरे
So,
भैया
what
अभी
kind of
मेरे पास एक केस आया है. This guy actually reached out to me in the evening only. He's like, I posted a tweet also. I don't know what should I actually advise him. Met a woman on a matrimonial site. She is like in the initial times, एक ही महीना बात हुई है. She has written him messages on WhatsApp that, my God, you're such a positive personality. You have brought so much of change in my life. I feel so confident. हमारी शादी होए चाहे ना होए. I just want to thank you for, bringing so much of happiness in my life. I feel so positive and all of that. And then this man is just after a few days of conversation, this man is telling her that this doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I'm so sorry. You're a great person, but I don't think this can go on. And she's like, what does really take you to hurt a woman like that? You know? And मेरे में कमी क्या है, मेरे में कमी क्या है, and all of that she is writing. And I was actually, I think, boarding my flight in Bangalore when this man had just called me frantically कि मैम प्लीज मुझे हेल्प कर दो, और I had probably landed. And when he sent me an SOS message and I immediately called him, he sent me the suicide note of the woman. She's still alive. I landed on 31st, 2 दिन हो गए हैं, she's still alive. She still sent such a harrowing suicide note to his friend. एंड शी इज लाइक, इस बंदे ने मेरे साथ मेरे को इमोशनली पूरा तोड़ दिया है, और अगर कोई खूबसूरत ना हो, अगर कोई ये ना हो, वो ना हो, तो इसका मतलब क्या होता है कि आप उससे शादी नहीं करोगे, और मैं इतनी हार्ट ब्रोकन हूँ. और ये लड़का और उसकी बहन भी और उसके 2 दोस्त भी का नाम डाल दिया यार.
I think, the macro picture, what we are trying to say is there's absolute zero fear of law in women today, which is very, very unfortunate. And today, women, if they have this, mind where they want to misuse laws and when they want to take advantage of laws in their favor, somewhere they feel that they'll get away with anything. And when I say anything, just last week there was a woman who was, given bail, who was accused of murdering her husband. And it is very interesting if you read that order. They had appealed under section 437, which clearly states that women, even in a non-bailable offense, can get bail. So this is where we are. And I
It's
mean,
very
forget a false
unfortunate
case,
where
even
the
murderers are
legislature
getting bail.
437 has three or four such categories, right? It's very
Yeah.
unfortunate that they've put women under
Women,
those
absolutely.
categories, which
One of
obviously,
them is children. One of them is, I think, the handicapped persons, and the third option is women. So
yeah.
I will
But
just leave
By
it
the
over there.
way, handicapped person should also mean handicapped women only, because all of you know the case of Shiv Kumar. He was thrown behind bars thrice for not paying maintenance to his wife when he was completely handicapped. So,
Great. May,
anyways,
I- may I just as ask the last question, because it's almost 1.5 hours, which is to say, let's try and
It's
end
dinner
on a
time.
positive. Yeah, let's try and end on two things. Is one is a positive note. What positivity can we take from this Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, which was the original reason why we are here? And secondly, what can we do to build on it? Right. So that's something. How can we build on it to make India also pass such judgments going forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I personally feel Anubhav should go to the Supreme Court and ask for a publicized trial, honestly. No, actually, I think in some courts they have allowed video trial, right? I think there was a lot of
Family
conversation in
court trials,
between that was
family court
happening.
trials will
Family
never,
courts. Yeah.
Deepika, family court trials
Matrimonial
will
cases will
never,
not go through.
ever. And I
They don't
personally
even
don't
they don't
agree
even
with
put
it
it on the
either.
website.
Yeah, I personally don't agree with it either. It shouldn't be put out on telecast on such scale. But anyway, what else can we do about it?
I personally feel, Rakesh, and I agree with, I think when you said that the change has to come from the society. So if we look at, that currently what I feel is the mindset of people itself is that the man is the perpetrator and the woman is the victim. Unless we showcase the other side, unless we put out stories which are actually happening with men, unless we project how unfair the legal system is, how biased the laws are, society is not even going to be bothered to question these things. And if society is not going to be bothered, neither the government is going to take any action or any cognizance of how lopsided the laws are. So I feel that as much as awareness can be spread through whatever medium, whether it's through social media, through documentaries, any medium, wherever we go, unless that awareness comes in society, it should be like tomorrow you hear the word domestic violence, and the first image that comes in your mind, it shouldn't be a man beating a woman. If it's domestic violence, please question who is the abuser. So, unless we reach that stage, it is going to be very, very difficult for us to counter any kind of narrative, at least on the legal front.
Sure.
Another thing that I personally think we should definitely take away from this case is to at least encourage the male victims of domestic violence to speak up, to come out. जो राजस्थान वाला केस था जिसमें उन्होंने वो बैट से अपने हस्बैंड को पीट रही थी, दिस मैन हैज गॉन टू द हाई कोर्ट, टेकन एन इंजंक्शन अगेंस्ट द वाइफ. I think we should encourage more men to do that. We should encourage more men to go to the court and seek recourse in cases like that. कुछ मिलता है कि नहीं मिलता है वो अलग बात है, जाओ तो. And I know that after that episode, there is one FIR that has actually gotten registered on a woman for beating up her husband. There was another case. I'm trying to get the video of that case as well. But one thing that I certainly take away is to encourage men, especially who are victims of domestic violence, to capture it, record it, put it out, and go to the court.
In fact, on this, I'll just quickly wrap up. When this Rajasthan video had come out and when the man was being beaten, over there also the women were asking, Are he's purposely put the camera, that is why he's not raising his hand. So, matlab, everything you want to, swing it in your way. If a man is being beaten on camera, also he staged it, and a woman, can just allege anything and get away. So, anyways, Amit, last comments.
See, I would say that we need to be the change that we want to see. We as activists also, in our within our circles, within our NGO circles and people that we come across, we need to actually start telling people that you have to be sensitive when a man comes out and actually shares his apathy. Whenever there's a discussion where a woman is a victim, we are very sensitive. We say that say this to a victim, do not say this to a victim. Don't shame the victim. When a man comes out, we are not as a society equally sensitive, and that's the reason other men are not comfortable coming out and sharing. Like Deepika said that men should come out and share. We need to give them space to come out and share. We need to give them that comfort to come out and share. We need to tell them that nobody is going to judge you. We are not going to pass judgments on whatever you're going to say. We need to be vocal, tell people. And all these forums, and like everybody was saying that people were saying that since he's put the cameras, he's not retaliating and all that. This comes from the this particular thought process that a man cannot be a victim, or a man, if even if he's a victim, he's not a man enough if he's coming out and sharing his his victimhood. So we as society, we as citizens of this society, we need to create that awareness. We need to create that atmosphere where men feel as much comfortable as a woman victim to come out and tell that I am a victim.
No,
At least they should gather courage to come out with the other side of the story, even if they don't initiate it. But if the women are coming to
Yeah, the
social
law is
media, if
not
they
there.
are
It
using
is understandable, Arnaz, that 498A or Domestic Violence Act does not protect them. But once they come out, there are other laws. Although we would love that the law should be gender neutral and there should be Domestic Violence Act for men also. But there are other laws. Physical assault, and there are other sections that probably in certain cases where there is actually brutality against men, those laws can be used by those men. So it is only when they would come out and they would share, they would know what are the laws presently wherein they can take some shelter.
yeah.
No,
All
wonderful.
right.
And last comment.
No, I would just want to just add one thing, controversial though it may sound, is I think we need to stop looking at judiciary in India for solutions. It's a system which is way past its expiry date. Indian judiciary has moved way past its expiry date. We need to start looking within and start creating what he called, what I would say, as the safe spaces for men and for women, because I really don't think that unless there is a revolution, and this is the word of Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi, that it would take a revolution for the judiciary to be serviceable to the common man. These are his exact words, right? So if we are talking about that, that revolution is going to take time. And I think meanwhile, we need to create systems within the society to protect and to comfort these people. Laws and judiciary is not something that we can hope will make a difference.
And
Especially when
I'd
it
just
comes
like
to
to
giving relief to
end
men.
I would just like to end that I think primarily we should, at least strengthen every man that even if he's facing a false case, he should not think of taking any extreme step. I think that is the first thing we should all aim at. Whether he speaks up, he doesn't speak up, it's okay. If it's a false case, if the police has walked up to your home, uh, it's okay. Things will sort out, this phase will go. But ending your life is not the solution. So maybe that should be, a takeaway. And everybody who is watching us, I think, see, we have very limited resources. We cannot go all out. We cannot be everywhere. It is up to you to speak about these issues to everyone you meet and, at least comfort them. You never know who is going through what in their personal lives. So unless each and every one of us, tells them that yes, there are platforms for men as well. If there are false cases, you have help that you can get through NGOs. Please speak about it in whichever forum you can. And I would want to end this debate on this.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Arnaz. Thanks for doing
Thanks,
this.
Arnaz.
Sarnaz,
Good night,
Thanks
pleasure.
for
everyone.
having us.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good
Bye.
night. We'll catch up soon. Bye bye. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.